Hi, I'm Anne, and this is another video with the subject of a unified spiritual practice, a unified practice of conscious embodiment. I have been comparing and engaging in a number of different practices for the past couple of years in an effort to identify the commonalities between the most effective practices. Some of them are within the context of a religion, Vedanta, or Tibetan Buddhism, or Rosicrucian, Rudolf Steiner, and others are secular, like deep subconscious AI and Wim Hof, for example. We could also put the Reich breathwork in that same category. So what I'm hearing practitioners saying within these different practices is that these are fast-track practices. For example, in the Wim Hof, we are doing, for example, 4 rounds of 30 breaths each. And we are building an enormous amount of warmth in the body. And we are oxygenating the body. And this puts the body in the position of being a vehicle for a different kind of consciousness. Judith Blackstone's realization process that is one of the non-sectarian practices I'm participating in and researching right now. Judith says that when the mind and the breath come together, this is the sweet spot. This is where we experience integration. In the Rudolf Steiner fast-track practice that I've got another video where I describe that one. This is a practice that involves very similar breathing practices to the realization process, Judith Blackstone, and the Wim Hof breathing process. It's referred to as the I am, it thinks, she feels, and he wills practice. And what we're doing in Steiner's and Blackstone's practices is much less, I'd say, physical or visceral than in the Reich or the Wim Hof, the de-armoring practice. And yet, its goal is very similar. It's perhaps working with a much finer state of embodied consciousness, a much subtler form of the mind-body. These practices involve focusing on a center, a series of centers within the body. Blackstone has recently begun adding the throat or the neck to her set of centers that she works with. Steiner had already been working with a 4-centered practice 100 years ago. So both of these ask the spiritual researcher to place the attention on a certain center in the body. The head, the throat, the heart, and the navel. In Blackstone's practice, we begin with the navel center and work our way upward. Though, in answer to a question from someone participating in one of her recent classes, she said it was fine to go the other way. Steiner does start from the head center and work down. Now, in Blackstone's practice, we're not using verses or mantras. In Steiner's practice, we are. In Blackstone's practice, we are breathing into the center. So I have begun modifying the Steiner practice to breathe into the centers while saying the mantras. The I am at the head, it thinks at the throat, she feels at the heart, and he wills at the midpoint behind the navel. If mantras don't work for a person, I think they should just leave it, right? Especially the duality of involving the she feels and the he wills. It can seem really off-putting, especially to my millennial and Gen I people. I'm a Gen X, a bridge generation here. So, you know, just a little side on the whole he-she thing. There's a beautiful statement made by a physician friend who's no longer with us physically. He said, in the human face, we see the unity of the genders. We see the male aspect and the female aspect in unity. So we're all non-dual in our face. I just love that. Another way to think about the Shiva Shakti or the he, she in the human experience is to think about the relationship between the mystery and the reverence or the desire for the mystery. The mystery has a very dark, feminine quality, doesn't it? The unknown. What is across that threshold into the next moment. And that curiosity, that gentle interest, that quality of the I, that's very Shiva, isn't it? It's very yang. So within these practices, we might ask ourselves when we're experiencing the unity of those two energies, and when we're experiencing perhaps a leaning toward one or leaning toward the other. You know, while we are non-dual, this manifested world, the world of energy and the world of form, is a dual world. It's not our ultimate foundational experience of consciousness, but we can breathe with it, move with it. We don't want to freeze. That's no fun. So that's just a little bit on looking for and finding some similarities between some of these hardcore, fast track, embodied tech practices that I am engaged in and would invite any of my friends to engage in. So leave me some comments. Take what you like and leave the rest.